So, it's my pleasure to have you this morning and to report on a long-term study that I have done with my office. I started with some premises that we were signing week after week and month after month and year after year many free trade agreements, and of course I expected us to improve our export, to increase the balance of payment, and to make sure that Canada would be be a winner at the end of the day. And from the study that was prepared, and my assistant David Hamilton, who is an economist working before with the WTO, under my assumptions, I had to work to see if my hypotheses were right or wrong. I mean, I was fearing that we were signing, but we had no specific objective except that there was a policy of the government that would, in a way, it was supposed to create thousands and thousands of jobs. One of the issue that I am, in fact, reporting, and it's at the end of my report, these famous 80,000 jobs that are supposed to be created by the agreement with Europe. Of course, the agreement is not in place yet. And there is more and more opposition to some section of that agreement. And these are the sections that I also have some concern, which is, of course, mostly the one where we would have a private sector process to assess the damages and, of course, be able to sue government when they change their legislation, whether it's on environmental matters and on the labor relation matters. Moreover, I mean, Germany Madame Merkel came here. She said that she was in agreement with the accord, except that she's a minority government with the SPD, of course, having a big word to say. And the Minister of Finance is quite concerned. And from that, because this is the latest agreement that was for discussion, the number of jobs were very high. We tried to find out the study, the basis for this statement by Minister Fass, but we could never obtain, neither, I guess, some of the journalists obtain the information on these famous 80,000 jobs, where they would be created, which sector, which part of Canada. I mean, we have to have an assessment of all these trade deals. And as far as I'm concerned, if we're talking about the deals that were done, we can see that on the 13 that were done under the Conservative government over the years, I mean, there are very few that in fact are producing a surplus. At the most, we are even, and the country where we are even is Panama and Colombia, but most of them, except U.S. with the NAFTA, which is a very, I would say, an old agreement, where in this case, the surplus is diminishing year after year. So actually, I must say that all the other agreement, we are in a deficit situation. So I ask myself, why do we sign an agreement, a free trade agreement, that is not beneficial to the Canadian taxpayer? And why do we get involved with that? You will be able to find in my report, because it's extensive, it's nearly 60 pages, that I guess I urge you to have a look at all the content, because these are facts. These are not political assessment, they are facts. One of the facts that is the strangest one is that why EDC, would say that they would create in 2000, they have created in 2014 719,000 jobs, saying that on the national scene it was 4.3% of the national force, except that all the other indicator and all the previous years, they have less company exporting. They have less. So I question these figures. I think they have changed in methodology, and you don't change a methodology when you are keeping statistics for a number of years. So on page 30 of my report, you can see the evolution from 2009 to 2014. It's almost impossible to come up with these figures that they have created 719 jobs. It is ludicrous to think that everything that is preceding that in terms of the analysis are going against that. One thing that is very important that we have to look at is that the way the government is presenting the whole question of export by sector: agriculture, natural resources, manufacturing, and services. Well, they do that in the good old time, but actually today we have to go with a new methodology because we're talking about the global village, global trade, and with the multinational corporation being the leaders in that, we have to look more at what are the returns for Canada, which part in each sector they are getting as a benefit. If we look at that, you could see that in 2011, which is the last year I got some figures, it's services. I mean, agriculture is going down, the natural resources, and it's the same thing with fabrication, the manufacturing. Manufacturing is going down. The only one is services, and it's represent now a little bit over 50%. So just to say that we have changed the scene, we are in a different world, but we don't have the mechanism to address this question and to find our way in the global village. I think what is important, and this is why I'm proud of that report, is that we have done something that I would say anybody could do by digging in the figures of the World Trade Organization, OECD, and all the Statistic Canada as well, except that once we have discovered that these agreements are not producing any benefit to Canada, that we don't have the system in place. I'm talking about governmental mechanism, and we don't have all the partners included. So I am, in fact, confident that if we were doing our homework, I'm not talking about the $1 zillion of investment, I'm talking about a better partnership with the private sector, the government, and I'm talking about governments because I'm talking about the federal government and the four, I would say, main government in Canada that are doing foreign trade. I'm talking about BC, Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec. Of course, the other ones are also participating, but to a lesser extent. But since we have many doors and many places where people can go, and since we have, I think the most tragic thing is that the private sector is very little involved in that policy model. And what I am looking, countries that have tremendous success. And for me, if I was a German person, I would be very happy with the success of my country because, in fact, they are the second largest exporter of the world with a population of 90 million. They are ahead of United States with 300 million. So we look at their performance, and they are, in fact, doing extremely well. And why? Because they have only one door, only one ministry, only one place where people can address themselves to go and do some export. And also there is only one agency that is going to help and provide financial support. But there is a full participation of the private sector. They are, in fact, the one that are the driving force behind the Chamber of Commerce that they have in every country of the world. In Canada, we have several hundred people working for the Chamber of Commerce and this institution, in fact, is the engine for the export to Canada of German goods. But this is financed by the private sector. There is a link with the governments when we're dealing with but it is I would say they talk to each other, government and private sector. But those who are in fact analyzing the performance of each of their Chamber of Commerce in terms of the export are and there is I would say a partnership even within the country between the large multinational corporation or in Germany in this case sometimes it's companies that belong to large family groups, and of course all the medium and small size companies are related to them, and they address all the question: innovation and training. I think if you don't have these two tools, there's little that will happen. This week I was reading in a magazine, and we'll give you the statistic, but how low Canada is in doing its work with regards to innovation. We are falling behind. We went from the 4th or 5th to is it 14 or 14? So in a few years, which means that we are losing grounds, and the only place where we will increase our export is with the question of services, and the services meaning that you have a share of a trade that you bring the know-how and the technology that Canadian brain can supply to a product. It could be started in one country. We could provide the technology improvement, and it may be finished in another country. So it's right now one country succeeding in doing the full production of a product is almost just a local company. It doesn't become a big exporter. And in my recommendation, of course, to strengthen our structure. So I hope Mr. Harper is listening to that, because it's easy. He doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. We have to have one ministry. We have to make sure that we have a national strategy where the private sector and the public sector are working hand in hand. We have to have a better way of developing the new technologies one thing that I am sometimes very sad is that when I sit on the finance committee and I see the budget that is being allocated to the Canadian Research Council, the budget is declining. This is one of the most productive research center in Canada. So their budget should be at least double, because they work hand in hand in the private sector. In terms of education, well, I would recognize the government has tried, but I don't think, when you don't talk to the premier year after year, when you don't have that synergy between provinces and the federal, I mean, the question of what kind of training, retraining all along the way to make sure that you're going to have jobs for everybody. If I look at two components, first of all, here we think that the more people that goes to university with billions of dollars of budget, we are doing well. Well, actually, in Germany, they spend probably half in terms of percentage of what we are spending, and they put their money on trade and supporting trade, doing some education with some teachers, but then these students are completing their education with companies, and where they get all the experience, and they can be very highly skilled worker, and change all along with the new technology. It's important then that we sit down with the private sector, with the Chamber of Commerce of Canada, but Chamber of Commerce with an S, because we have so many chambers of commerce. Again, I mean, they should work as one entity, going in the same direction, and having, of course, a plan to really reach out, support the whole economic development, and find the niche where we can succeed in countries. I mean, we have the Bombardier, and we have many other companies that have operation outside of Canada. They could be one of the engine to have this extra contribution by the medium and small size company. This is more the medium sized company that would be included, because right now, if you see one of my graphic, the number of companies involved is declining. I mean, we have less and less company exporting, which is we have more and more trade agreement and less company exporting. It's a bit a funny result. And then, of course, we have to put, once we have the two institutions well defined, I mean the federal government in one entity, and to have the private sector to do the work in commercializing our products, we need to put a group together to hold a forum every year where the private sector, the government of Canada and the governments of provinces are sitting together, and of course making sure that they're going to go in the same direction, support each other, and be complementary, because the economy is not necessarily the same from one to the other. And I am giving an extra task to the parliamentary budget officer, because I think one of the things that's missing a lot from these free trade agreements is the fact that they remain a big secret until they are signed. No parliamentarian really is overviewing that. And we don't have an analysis with the cost-benefit analysis. So who could provide a cost-benefit analysis of these new partners? It's a parliamentary budget officer who could have a little section to make sure that when we sign other trade agreement, that we have at least a perspective how much is going to produce for Canada. Because right now we have nothing, and we are kept in the dark. And I think if we're going to go ahead with the agreement with Europe, which is, I think, under great threat not to be adopted if we don't change the question of the mechanism to resolve the conflict. I mean, I don't think it's going to be signed, because there are so many people involved, including the Commission of the European Parliament that is overlooking that. They are very concerned, and they know that it's going to remove some power from the political class, from Parliament. And with them, I agree that who are they? These people would put on the shoulder of a citizen of a country a big amount of money to be paid because we're charging the law. It's not the government who's paying; it's the taxpayers who will be paying, and this I oppose totally. So I wish you a nice reading of and I'd like to thank my two assistants. They have worked hard, and it's a work over a year. And for me, it's giving you also maybe the flavor of what a senator should do, because I think we can undertake this kind of study on areas where we have a need, and that at the parliamentary level, I don't see my colleague MP who are doing their writing work and all their public relation doing what I did. I think I am in the best position to do that kind of exercise, to reflect on the future of Canada and serving the interests of everyone. So I am quite willing to answer your question.
You mentioned funding for National Research Council. The government has kind of made a priority of using that as a way of commercializing research. I'm just wondering if you had any particular thoughts about that policy direction.
Well, you have to know that I was with SNC, and we were doing both commercial product, but we were also doing some research and innovation. We did a lot of research on, for instance, the solar panel, which was not at that time developed to a point that it could be a very great business. But I feel that we have to maintain a good balance between the fundamental research and, of course, the application with the private sector. Once someone wants to make a study, the initial proposal, I mean, if there is not, 1 bit of 1% that could lead to anything that could happen to Canada. Of course, I have some reservation on that. But I mean, to have a result that would be immediately in place, I don't think that's okay. Very often, the fundamental research, we don't know where it's going to go in the future. And I have talked also to other research centers in Canada, and it's the same. They try to get a balance between the two to make sure that once you have because there are many phases, you have to have first to prove the concept, and then you have to go to the second level, which is the development project, and then you have to go to the commercial. So it's a long process, depending on the technology and depending which field we are. If we're dealing with nuclear energy, could be a long-term research. But as far as I'm concerned, I think, again, I stress that they need at least twice the amount they have. I think they have $1.5 billion. They should have at least $3 billion. This is, for me, the place where innovation is of the utmost importance. And Kevin Lynch, who was the former clerk of the Private Council, wrote an article this week saying that we are falling behind at a tremendous speed. We are the 20th country of the OECD with regards to innovation. Well, if you don't do innovation, how are you going to stand this pressure of the foreign trade and all the battle in the global economic scene? If we're going to go back to the place where we were, as being the fifth from where we are now at the 14th, which we in fact did at quite a very fast speed, because I mean, I'm very disappointed that we don't look at these figures and don't take the necessary. And also, one of the things that is mostly preoccupying, it's the number of places where medium-sized company would have to go ahead with their project. I mean, it's a nightmare for them. They have small staff, they have a small amount of money, and very little time. So we need to have one single place where these people can have access in the government, and also make sure that the private sector is coming along, because I mean, we always say, and Mr. Paulas is saying that as well, that productivity is not there. Productivity is not there because innovation is not there. Well, how long are we going to reply? So I think I am one of the first one coming with some element of a solution. It's for discussion, but I think we're going these solutions have worked elsewhere and probably will work for us as well.
With regard to CETA in particular, did you have any particular amendments that you wanted to see to the agreement, or is it just the investor-state dispute resolution mechanism?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, every once in a while I read that the question of the chicken and all of this are coming back on the surface, that it's not being threatened, and I'm happy that the government, but you know, there's always the fear that this will go, not because I come from Quebec, because I know how the agriculture is subsidized in other countries. Here we pay at the end of the line as a consumer. Over there, they pay as taxpayers because they receive massive amount of billions of dollars of subsidies. Whether we're talking about Europe, we're talking about United States. So I feel that we have our own way. We have good quality product, and I'm very happy to eat our chicken that are probably of a better quality than most of the other places. So CETA is a place where that clause is certainly of the most, I would say, scaring, because it's we're dealing with 28 countries. I saw that, for instance, I think it's Norway, or one of the country of the north of Europe, that is suing the German government for closing down their nuclear plant because they own the plant for billions of dollars. Oh, the German then woke up and decided that they don't like this at all, and they would not like to be ordered by a private panel to pay the $2 billion. So as far as I'm concerned, this one, I think, is a winnable one, and of course it's going to probably be transferred to also the accord with the United States, because the German will not allow it, the French will not allow it, and the European Commission will not allow it.
Sort of explain how exactly you think combining Industry Canada and Trade into one department would help our trade balance?
Well, this morning my office downloaded for me a chart of where the people. Is it this? So you can see that what a company should go through. This is federal government chart. So I don't have to make a big case. I mean, if you have to export planning, going to the market, financing, and then you change the player all the time. Why should they go through all these institutions? You should go to only one place, and there should be only one file, and there should be a timeline. The problem is that I've been with the private sector, I mean, personally, and I know that time is of the essence. In fact, we lost one deal when I was with SNC because we planned a project with a certain tax break, and by the time we were ready to do the project, which was a several $million project, the subsidy was gone and the project was not anymore viable. I mean, why would you ask a company to invest to do a project planning with the financing? You have to spend at least 10% of the project. So yes, time is important, and in this case it doesn't make sense. And as I say, I have not I didn't start with that in my study. We just discovered that today. And the other table that I got with regards to Kevin Lynch, it was an article written this week. So it happens that I'm not the only one thinking about it. And innovation is really a very, very important pillar for developing. So we cannot address one single thing, and we cannot go to several doors. We have to have an overall planification, and that's, for me, I think it's feasible if other countries are doing it.
Government is trying to provide.
Well, think of a medium-sized business. We're talking about businesses that can be between 50 employees to 200 employees. But those who are at the management level who would decide to go ahead with new technology, a new project and everything, and even exploring the market, I mean, when you know how much they should know before they go there. So if the Chamber of Commerce, who are supposed to be more or less the godfather of the smaller company, to help them to penetrate other market, then they will be saving not only time but money, because I mean, the experience I have of some companies that went abroad, I mean, they fell from the roof for the simple reason that they thought that they had the same banking system, they had the same legal system, to discover that the law were not working like that when they were working. And sometimes, I mean, in the financial side, they thought that the bank would respect the draft, and they were taking the side of the person who had bought. So the merchandise was in the other country, but the guy who did it in Canada, I mean, was not getting any payment for it. So we have to know this before. And I can tell you that we still have problems with these non-tariff barriers. And they have to know that they exist and where to look for that. And who can do that? The bigger one, who are already in place in these countries. So that's, I feel, a big step in the right direction. I just hope that my party, I mean, I'm still liberal, will adopt my way of thinking. So thank you so much. Bon. Well, thank you for your interest. I may be passionate about it, but I hope that there are some journalists too.